Hello, Christy here from Little Roots Ranch. One thing funny that I wanted to share with you is that I don't have video equipment, and so I have my phone literally resting on a tree branch to video myself. So if you're wondering why the camera is so steady, it's because it's on a red alder tree. Anyways, Christy here from Little Roots Ranch, and today I wanted to talk to you about watering. And what does that mean? A lot of people have questions about watering and understanding what they should be doing. The first thing to note is that it really depends on your soil. You can have really sandy soil, like if you're on the coast or Florida, or very clay soil like I have here, or a lot of clay, not very clay, whatever. And there's a big difference. So sand allows the water to go through quickly, and so you actually have to water more. Whereas clay holds it like a sponge, and so you don't need to water as much. And so that's important. You should know what kind of soil you have. If you don't, you can do the mason jar test, or you can have your soil tested, or ask somebody to take a look at it for you. But so if you don't know, you should for sure. The other way, well, I should back up. A lot of people say that, they want a specific on exactly how much water, and there is an answer and there isn't an answer. The rule of thumb is pretty much an inch a week, but that doesn't apply to all crops or anything that you can grow, and then it doesn't take into account your soil, the season, natural water that you get, like say rain or whatnot. And so those are important. So rule of thumb, an inch a week. But what does that really look like? First of all, plants are like 70, 80% water. Like even carrots are 79% water. And like tomatoes, lettuce, cucumbers, they're over 90% water. So they need a lot of water. And then there are some plants that don't like a lot of water. So one way to tell if you need to water or not, or if you're overwatering, is if you're seeing wilt. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that with one thing you have to, what is it called? Release the guilt about midday wilt or whatever. If you're in a hot area and during the day your plants wilt, that's just gonna happen. It's really hot. Not everything that you're growing is native to your area, and it's just gonna struggle a little bit midday, and then towards the evening when it cools off a little bit, it's gonna perk right back up, assuming of course that you're giving it the watering that it deserves. So if you're in a really hot area, midday wilt is okay. Go ahead and drop that guilt. But for the rest of us, unfortunately, underwatering and overwatering looks about the same. And what I mean by that is you get the wilt, and that's caused by different reasons, obviously. If you are watering too little, then if you're watering too much, then it's going to wilt because your roots are rotting. And if they're rotting, the plant's going to sense that, and it's going to be taking in less roots, can't support all the foliage or growth or whatever that your plant has, which obviously makes sense. If it's wilting because there's too little water, well, obviously that's a no-brainer because it's not getting the water that it needs, and it's struggling to survive and surely not going to thrive. And so that's important to keep in mind. Going back to the overwatering, another thing is that you will, when you're rotting those roots with all that water, especially this happens if you've got a lot of clay, but you're depriving the plant of oxygen because the roots aren't able to take that in because obviously they're basically being drowned or whatever. So that's important to note. You also, when thinking about watering, a lot of people, everyone's busy. I totally get that. And so if you're running around your garden and just trying to get a little bit of water here and there as often as you can and do a little bit, the thing is you're actually not doing the best by your plants. You want to do deep waterings, deep infrequent waterings. And so what does that look like? Maybe instead of every single day you're going out and spraying the hose and, oh, the top layer looks wet, you're good to go and moving on. No, sit with it for a little bit, you know, or unless you have like irrigation or things like that, you know. But if you've got drip and irrigation, you're probably a little more cued into water needs of your plants. But you want to get the soil wet at least ideally 6 inches down. And so I'll usually do a fairly deep water and then make my rounds and then come back and then do another deep watering just to allow it to soak in and saturate, and then move on. Sorry, there was a bee crawling on my foot, and we have bees here, obviously. So anyways, but that's something that's really important to notice is how, and you can dig your finger in around the plants or in your garden or different areas, containers, whatever, and kind of just feel around how deep does it feel? Like, what does it feel like there's a lot of water? If your finger's not getting water, those roots aren't getting water either. And of course, the age of the plant. If you just put a little seedling in, the roots are small. They're not going to be able to, you know, they're not like a tree or an established plant that has a whole interstate, highway, whatever, of roots that are relaying messages and grabbing waters from, you know, the water table and all over and things like that, right? So you have to be more conscious of that. One thing to note though is that you don't want to overwater if you get scared about your plants not getting enough water. It's real easy, and this goes in with the finger check again. If you're watering and you're like the next day and you're looking at your topsoil, if it's not covered, which I know that Justin Rhodes always says, Mother Nature is modest. She likes to be covered with either wood chips or growing things or cover crops, whatever. But anyways, if you notice that it looks dry, a lot of times if you just dig your finger down there a little bit, you'll be able to see that it's actually, there's water beneath it, and that's okay. I think actually with seed starting, that's where a lot of people tend to run into trouble, is that they get dampening off, or their plants just succumb to whatever from overwatering it. It's okay for the top to dry out. It's actually recommended, and that's how I know when to water. I only top water the very first time when I do my soil blocks, and then I bottom water and continue that forever, basically, while they're in the tray, or unless I'm out of time and I kind of dump water, but I try not to do that, obviously. But I've definitely made that mistake when I first started growing. It's just adding water and water and water, and I think it needs to be so moist. And then my plants come up and they kind of just disappear right at the, like someone cut them, but slowly, right at the base of the line of where the soil is. And I guess it's not soil, potting mix, whatever, or homemade mix, anyways, not the point. But that's because it's too moist, you know, and the plants aren't made for that. And so then I learned a long time ago to just let that top layer dry out. I noticed that cut down on like algae growing from my grow lights and all of that stuff. So that's pretty much what I had to say about watering, is that ideally you want to shoot for an inch every week. You want to pay attention to, you know, what kind of plants you have and what kind of soil you have, and then also what other watering are they getting. If it's the dead of summer, that ground's going to be drying out a lot quicker. If you just came off a rain, you probably don't need to water. If it's overcast, your watering is going to last longer. If you have sandy soil, you're going to need to water more. So did I give you a definite answer of exactly how much to water? No, not really, but kind of a guideline. And follow your plants. Your plants will tell you. And if you're unsure, you can search my videos, other people's videos, YouTube or Google, whatever, and you can tell like what's going on. You know, if your tomato leaves are yellowing, and you know, is that lack of nitrogen? Probably, you know, like, and you can learn slowly, but learn how to troubleshoot your plants and what they need and what's going on, and that'll help you be a better gardener, farmer, whatever, down, you know, in the future. Let's see here. I made myself a little list, and I just wanted to make sure I talked about everything. Yeah, no, that looks like I covered everything. So perfect. I'm trying to be more organized, which is like the story of my life. But yeah, basically watch your plants, keep an eye on it, get those fingers in that soil and feel what the plants are feeling, and watch how your plants are reacting. Usually cool weather crops are the crops that are going to need more water, whereas your summer crops, those are going to need less water. They're accustomed. Also, look at where things come from. Like, for instance, what is it, black-eyed peas or black beans, navy beans? A lot of beans originate from the southwest of the United States. What's down there, it's really hot, there's not a lot of rain, and so that's what they're used to. If I brought them up to wet Washington and was just watering them all the time, like maybe my celery or something, then I'm gonna flood them. They don't know what to do with all that water, so just keep an eye on it, make sure you're thorough. The other thing I recommend is getting a rain gauge to figure out exactly how much is falling if you're not sure or whatnot. Or I've even heard things of like using like a tuna can or a cup or something, just to kind of get an idea how much is falling. And you'll notice I love rainwater when it waters my crops, because I notice if I'm trying to get something to sprout and it's not sprouting after it rains, that baby's gonna sprout. Like the rain brings all the goodness from the sky, and I don't know, it's just magical. Here we're on well, and so we don't have like the chlorine and stuff in the water, but I know a lot of people that are on city water. They store or keep their water and collect rainwater, and that's another option. And you can have it close to your site. There's a bee flying. Oh no, guess it was a fly. Usually it's a bee. But anyways, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever, drop them below. Again, I'm new, so I have the time to answer it, so I'm available. We have Instagram and Facebook. Please check us out, like and subscribe, ask any questions, and I'll talk to you later. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.